Warren is about a 20-ish handicapper, and we were having a conversation not long ago about one of the tips that I did with Denise Hutton recently, and Warren said that this tip had really helped him a lot. So I'm going to quickly show you that tip.
But is that if we're going uphill, people often say, oh, I've got to hit it harder. We don't hit it harder.
You don't hit it hard, you don't hit it soft, you vary the length of the stroke.
Yep.
That's right, and that's crucial to get consistent judgment of distance.
Exactly.
Which is so important to avoid through putting.
Because I think it's very important, like if we have a longer putt back, a longer stroke back, we want the same tempo back to the ball.
Yes.
So you don't want hit it harder, because then it's a faster tempo. You
That's
just
right.
have the length.
And it'll be much more inconsistent.
Absolutely.
Because that just depends how you're feeling on the day. What's harder and what's softer.
There's so many myths in golf, Annie, isn't there? We've been in it so long, we have probably created some of them ourselves.
So what I found, and what Denise has agreed with, we've talked about this in the past, that a lot of people have very short backswing and then try and hit the ball really hard, or they try and hit it soft, rather than relying on the length of the swing in putting. Now, Warren is here because he was saying to me over the last few weeks and months what a difference that tip had made to him. So how many putts were you having before?
Look, on a good day I was probably 35, 36 putts, and even though I felt like I'm not a bad putter, I just wasn't reflected in the number of putts I was having. And
you liked that tip, it just sort of resonated with you?
Yeah, so I think I was definitely guilty of sometimes, trying to hit it too hard with the, just not adjusting the backswing, but rather adjusting the force that I was hitting the ball with. And I found that I was actually, a lot of times before, the second putt was always a bit more difficult than I would have liked. And
so you're running them up a bit closer now?
Yeah, definitely running up a lot closer, and it's a lot less stressful in terms of those second putts. And finding I'm probably having about, at worst about 33, sometimes 31, and maybe even lower at times.
So that's a good 3 or 4 shots difference. And off a 20 handicap, that makes a massive difference. Brings you down to 16 if you can do it.
Yeah, definitely.
And your handicap has come down to about 18, hasn't it?
Yes, I'll go for 17.6 at the moment if we go with the GA handicap, to bring me down as good as I can.
So just to finish up, explain what thought process you went through to take on board this tip. Like, what was different for you?
Yeah, so I guess it's just a matter of just making sure that I'm just swinging with that same tempo. So I sort of think about just having that same, speed in terms of the way I bring the club backwards and through, and just really then adjusting how far I take the club back in terms of the backswing. So I look at sort of whether I'm sort of inside my right foot, or in line with my right foot, or maybe beyond my right foot, and how far that'll go in terms of the distance.
So you're getting quite specific, as in how far to take the putter back, determined by where your foot is. Now that may be a little bit mechanical for some people, but it also works really well for some people. So you might want to go and do a bit of an experiment at your putting green, where take the putter back to the inside of your back foot and see how far the ball goes. Take it back to the outside, for example, and see how far. So that's what you're doing, the more mechanical sort of.
Definitely it works for me. I'm sort of a facts and figures person, so I think that makes a lot of sense for me, for sure.
Okay, so use the length of the stroke to determine the distance, not how hard or how soft you hit it when you're putting. Thanks, Warren.
No problems.
So this tip is a putting tip for people that like to get quite accurate with their judging of distance. Now, some people are good at just feeling it and having some practice strokes, and other people like to get really quite definite about judging distance. So this one's for those of you that are a little bit analytical and you like the mechanics of judging distance. So this is a trick that I think might help you. So what you're going to do is you're going to set yourself up with your feet about shoulder width apart, and I'm going to give you 3 distances. Let me move the ball out the way. 3 distances that you can cover. So take your setup, and you're going to take your putter back to be level with the inside of the back foot and through to the inside of the front foot. You're going to do a couple of practice swings, and then you're going to bring the ball in, and then you're going to actually do some putts swinging about that distance, and then you're going to see how far that ball goes. So it'll obviously change depending on the speed of the greens, but what you can do is you can write down how far it goes when you swing from the inside of the foot to the inside of the foot. Then what you'll do is you'll take the club a little bit further back, about in line with the middle of that toe to the middle of that toe. So this one's a slightly longer stroke, obviously. So back further, through further. Then you'll bring your ball in, and you'll test how far that goes. And you'll find obviously that one goes a little bit further. And then our third one will be to the outside of that foot, through to the outside of that foot. So practice it a little bit, get a feel for that, and then bring your ball in again and do it similar. Now obviously you can't look at your feet and you're looking at the club face, you want to be looking at the ball, that's really important. But just practice a little bit, you'll end up with 3 quite solid distances from the inside of each foot to the toe of each foot and to the outside of each foot. And then that gives you a starting point if you really like to be analytical about judging your distances when you're putting.